All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon and spending the evening with us to learn from Richie Sayavong from California Department of Insurance on the current state of homeowners insurance in California, specifically wildfire insurance, as well from the Carmel River Watershed Conservancy to learn about their vegetation tool management and also their upcoming session of Science and Court that will be on wildfire resiliency. So first up, I want to do some introductions. So myself, I'm Jennifer Valadez. I'm the project manager for Fire Safe Council. And also have Richie present. Carmel River Watershed Conservancy present. Also have some resources, staff materials, and also some upcoming events. So introductions, if we could get maybe in the chat or speaking out loud, your name, your Firewise community or organization affiliation, or in any projects or community events that you have coming up. Maybe in the chat, I could read them out and we can see, who's joining us. I see some familiar faces from Firewise 101 as well. I know Pam is also here to help me moderate a little bit, an extra hand. Yeah, we have Janice from Laurel Firewise in Carmel Valley. I know today would be pretty good for Carmel Valley, also with RCD. I don't see anyone from RCD today or the Resource Conservation District, but in an upcoming Firewise 101 session, we want to do a discussion about their Carmel Valley Field Break project. And so that should be exciting to see their story map. And yeah. Randall, we have someone from Mesa del Toro off Corral de Tierra Road. I think that's Carmel Valley, I'm sure.
No.
Yeah. Or it's maybe not.
Corral de Tierra.
Corral de Tierra. And then the Bluffs HOA, Vista del Toro. And upcoming community events, I know some are coming up for North County specifically, Ace Hardware event, and their leadership meetings that they hold too. See in the Carmel, Michael Waxer as well, board director on Fire Safe Council and Carmel River Watershed Conservancy. Yeah, highlighting some joint issues. Great, thanks for everyone for sharing. Yeah, and then also Erin, who will be presenting on behalf of Carmel River Watershed Conservancy. Also a great link. They have great story maps and great timeline also of the watershed. They'll also be talking about the watershed health report card and all that important information for anyone living within the watershed. Carmel Firewise. Also Richie joining us from the outreach analyst for California Department of Insurance, who will be presenting next. Okay, so I think we kind of have a lot of people coming in for that. And if anyone else joins in, we can just have them join in conversation. So first, I wanted to introduce Richie Sayavong, who we had before last year to also talk about insurance. And I think there's been some new developments, specifically with some legislative updates that might be affecting homeowners from the California Department of Insurance, current homeowner insurance crisis in California, also resources available through California Department of Insurance, California Prayer Plan, safer from wildfires as well. I think I can stop my share and allow Richie to share his screen if he has his presentation.
I don't have co-host available.
Yeah, that's privileges. What I realized. Let me look.
Do I have to do that? Maybe I have to do that.
Yeah, I think
let me see if I can share. Where is that thing? Wait, sorry, everyone.
I'm sure screen.
Okay, I think I gave everyone ability to share screen.
Oh, Pam, I see your screen now as well. Post tool.
Whoops. You want me to stop sharing
Oh,
my
yeah, there we go.
screen? You should be able to
I
do.
think I got that multiple people can share.
Okay,
Okay, there we
now.
go. I got access.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
All right. So, go ahead. Begin.
There
All
we
right,
go.
good evening, folks. Thank you for having me this evening. I would like to extend my gratitude to Jennifer for connecting with me and, getting this set up and get this going. Again, my name is Richie Sayavong with the California Department of Insurance. I serve as the outreach analyst for the Central Valley and the Central Coast. So I am your point of contact with the department. But let's go ahead and talk about what's been going on with the insurance market here in California. So Proposition 103 was the largest insurance reform that we've worked on over 30 years ago. And since then, there really hasn't been much changes to insurance and how we write insurance here in the state of California. So over the past few years, we've been seeing historic inflation, the rising cost of goods, rising costs of repairs, just rebuilding, everything just in general. When you couple that with the cost of reinsurance, it's insurance for insurance companies. So that is, getting more expensive for the insurance companies themselves. And you couple that with growing climate change threats throughout, in California, we've seen fires, floods, just a multitude of things. But also, when you look at a global scale, there's tons of different perils and disasters that we've been seeing, which trickle down to California to where we have fewer insurance options. And because of that, because of the insurance companies stopping or pausing business, we've seen accelerated growth of the FAIR plan. It's grown from 3% to 6% of the market. And we're really, really trying to prevent a total market collapse. So, a little note there. So, there are 12 groups that actually control 85% of the state homeowners market. And since 2022, 7 of those top 12 groups have stopped, doing business altogether. But I'm not really a big numbers guy, but here's some information on some context here. Over the past 10 years, insurance companies in California have done far worse than nationally. So I just really, really want to point into 3 points on here. So the direct underwriting profit, countrywide, they're at 3.6. California is at a negative 13.1. Direct profit on insurance transactions, countrywide is 4.2, while California is at a negative 6.1. And then a direct return on net worth, countrywide 7%, and California 0.8%. So, you know, you're wondering, okay, these insurance companies, they do a lot of business, they're always putting ads. It's a little different when it comes to California. State Farm in particular, they have a State Farm of California. So some insurance companies will actually establish their own branch specifically for California and how they write in California in general. Insurance companies countrywide, that 7% in California, where we gauge an insurer and how well they're doing overall is what is called a fair return. So an insurance company earns a fair return, which is 3 to 4% above their overall book of business. So say they have, billions and billions of dollars worth of policies, but it can only be 3 to 4% over that amount. Slide. Oh, you're wondering, okay, Commissioner Lara, what has he been doing overall for the state of California? So back when we had the campfire back in 2018, really wasn't much established fire mitigation efforts, nor have insurance companies been acknowledging that. So Commissioner Lara sat down with Cal OES, Cal Fire, Policy and Research Institute, as well as other, fire chiefs across the state of California, and we created the Safer from Wildfires regulation. So it does mandate insurers to offer premium discounts for homeowners implementing wildfire mitigations while rewarding the risk. So I'll go over that shortly. But we moved on to the sustainable insurance strategy, which was 23-24. So prior to instituting the catastrophe models in California to, provide precise wildfire risk rating and pricing, while factoring in your mitigation, property, community, and landscape scales to ensure market stability. So this, in general, we're growing the way that insurance companies can write insurance. Prior to this, they just use historical data. Historical data doesn't really provide much besides fire, flood, and over the course of 2018 until now, we've had about 120 devastating wildfires throughout the state of California, which brings us also to the California Safe Homes Grant, which is a law and it's actually put into place. We're still in development of it currently, but it's grants for low-income homeowners in high fire severity zones for defensible space and home hardening. But let's dive into safer from wildfire. So it's a three-step system or three-step regulation that we kind of established with the Department of Insurance as well as our insurers throughout the state of California. So the first step being protect your home or business, having a Class A rated roof, 5-foot ember resistant zone, non-combustible 6 inches at an area bottom of the exterior walls, and then ember resistant vents. Step 2 is protecting your immediate surroundings, so clearing vegetation, debris from any decks, also moving sheds or other outbuildings to a distance of 30 feet to establish that defensible space. And of course, protecting the whole community, the third step where you achieve mitigation risk designation, wildfire community-wide risk mitigation recognition, such as Firewise. So of course, with all these discounts all together, you should see when you do all these steps from 4 to 44% on your homeowner's policy. Next slide. Okay, so let's watch a quick video here. Of course, is IBHS and CAL FIRE working together on a home that is prepared, wildfire prepared, and one home that is not. So you can see the stark difference there. Uh, Next slide. So part of the sustainable insurance strategy, going into that now. So the major components are catastrophe models. So catastrophe models actually weren't introduced in California for quite some time. Because of the sustainable insurance strategy, we finally introduced this into the state and allowing insurance companies to, write using, these catastrophe models. So we have 3 approved models that are currently in use. And, of course, we're modernizing how we do our rate review process. Believe it or not, we were still receiving rate review packets in paper form, incomplete, by the way, too, up until 2024. So as of January 1st, 2025, when this regulation went into place, the whole system of how we review rate filing packets, they're complete and they're digital. So no more paper and insurance companies delaying this process. Part of this agreement with the insurance companies on how they're using these rate making tools is that we're going to require them to write throughout the whole state of California, especially in our high wildfire severity zones. Monterey County has been identified as one of our counties that is going to be targeted by the insurance companies, so you should see some options soon, and I'll go over the insurance companies coming back. Yeah, we actually have 10 insurance companies that have committed to grow their business here in California. As you can see on this slide, these are the insurance companies that have gone into effect that have actually started writing in California. So we have CSAA, USAA, California Casualty, Mercury, and Pacific Specialty. So there are more coming along the way. So definitely stay up to date with the Department of Insurance on that. Oh, let's do some market comparisons here. So back in '94, we had the Northridge earthquake, a 6.7 magnitude earthquake, waking up everybody in the middle of January at 4 a.m. Because of this, a lot of insurance companies left the state. And so the state stepped in and said, no, we actually need earthquake insurance here. So we established the California Earthquake Authority. So in California, we get about 90% of the nation's earthquakes. And sadly, there's only 10 to 15% of homeowners in California that actually have earthquake insurance. So because of this, there is a large coverage gap because a lot of folks opt out of it. And, it poses a significant threat if we do happen to have another large earthquake. Homeowners won't have their properties covered if they choose to not get earthquake insurance. But let's do the comparison now with the wildfire. So we had the earthquakes. Now we're moving on to wildfire. So 2018 up until 2025, starting with the Camp Fire to the Palisades and Eaton fires, we've worked heavily on this. We're looking back to the past of how, the California Earthquake Authority was created. We're preventing that. We don't want a state-ran insurance group. So, we worked on the safer from wildfires. So having the mitigation strategies as well as a wildfire risk or transparency. That discussion there, with the cancellation notices or renewal notices you get from the insurance company, they have to provide a wildfire risk score. And if you as a consumer disagree with any of the score or how they came up with that, you can obviously dispute that with the Department of Insurance and we can actually get that situated for you. And then we move on to the sustainable insurance strategy where we have the catastrophe models, we're expanding the availability of insurance, we're modernizing the FAIR Plan. We're establishing a clearinghouse with the FAIR Plan to get folks off the FAIR Plan and back to the traditional market. And of course, we streamlined the rate filings. We hired staff to be able to handle these, rate filing applications and get them done within about 60 days. And the long-term goal
this person is available
is to prevent a total market collapse and stabilize insurance rates here in California. Historically, California is about in the middle when it comes to insurance rates. So we're not paying excessive amounts or too low of an amount. We're just right about in the middle. And then another comparison here, California, we are the largest insurance marketplace here in the United States, and we rank fourth in the world. Annually, when it comes to insurance premiums, we exceed $332 billion. So we are positioned, below top markets like China, the United Kingdom, and the whole United States combined. So we're pretty big. And because of this, we want to ensure that, we're doing as much as we can to prevent any issues and be able to provide consumers with the protections that they need when it comes to traditional insurance. Believe it or not, a lot of nations actually come to, California and meet with our team as well as our other branches to kind of see how we do business here in California. And it really reflects the work that we do here. But let's talk about some of the legislative sponsored bills that we're, working with the legislature on. Commissioner Lara, with his work on the sustainable insurance strategy as well as the safer from wildfires, how can we enhance things for post-disaster recovery? So the first bill we're looking at is the Smoke Damage Recovery Act. That is AB 1795 by Assemblymember Mike Gibson. So what we saw in LA with the fires, and smoke claims in general, there's really no clear standards for how people can file claims with their insurance company regarding smoke damage. And because of this, folks are going back into homes that are uninhabitable. And with this bill, it's going to establish clear guidelines as well as payments for folks that are, effectively damaged by, any smoke claims that they have. And then we move on to the Disaster Recovery Reform Act. This is SB 876. It's clear insurance guidelines on how they're going to handle, any type of disaster. And, it gives the insurance companies about a 30-day timeline to establish, how they're going to handle things after a fire, after a flood, any type of peril that we're facing with. And it's faster insurance payouts. So you're getting your money up front, but also if it's delayed, you get interest. We're moving on to the Make It Fair Act. This is AB 1680, written by Assemblymember Calderon. So essentially, we're trying to modernize the fair plan, have them be a little bit more transparent overall, but also establish a clearinghouse. We really, really want to push people off the fair plan and back to the traditional market. And that QR code in the corner, if you scan that, that's more information there on these bills. And here's some CDI resources. So, there's this website has tons of information. If you are wondering how to start a claim, cancellation notices, are finding what insurance carrier you can, look for, and agents in your area that you can shop with, our California low cost auto insurance program, our senior gateway. This website has tons of information, and you can definitely reach out to us with any questions that you may have. And the department website is insurance.ca.gov. Definitely need to fix that on there. This is our consumer alert. This QR code gets you signed up with what's going on with the department. Anytime there's any new news regarding, new regulations, consumer safety and education, fraud prevention, unfair business practices, and insurance issues in general. Definitely stay up to date with that. And we've also started a statewide education series here. We have recordings available on those topics on the left, but we are gearing up for our health insurance and business insurance webinars. These are completely free. It's an hour long. If you register for it and aren't able to attend, you do get the recordings as well. And we do care about what you think. This QR code here is a quick survey on how well this presentation went. And at this time, I can take any questions.
Thank you, Richie, for taking the time today to present. And also, maybe I have some questions. You spoke a little bit about the home hardening grants, and from my understanding, it's like the California Safe Homes Act.
Yes.
That it'd be coming from. Can you talk a little bit more about that rollout if you can? Or
yes, definitely. Yeah. So currently the Department of Insurance, we are the ones in charge of that. There is money allocated for this program itself. It's a $10,000 grant for homeowners in low income areas, but also in wildfire distress areas. The department's still figuring out the parameters and just the requirements for it. So once that does go live, we will have that available for folks to register for. So definitely sign up for our consumer alerts, and you can be up to date with that information when it does roll out.
Great. Thanks. And I also want to do a little side comment on the educational series. I've joined in before, and they're very informative. So I really advise anyone who can join in on them to join in on them. Yeah, just another comment. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
I see in the chat, Courtney has a question of, is State Farm still going to write in California for homes they now cover?
So currently with State Farm, we are kind of in a litigation process with them. I'm not sure if they filed for the sustainable insurance strategy models just yet, but things could change. They are going to be meeting with the Department of Insurance on quite a few things. So once we do get notice of that, we will make an announcement as well, because I know State Farm is one of the largest insurance groups here in California.
Yeah. Okay, and Michael Waxer would like to ask a question.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, Richie, thank you so much for giving this presentation. What I wanted to ask you is that video, by the way, of the protected and unprotected home is pretty powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And on that topic, I think a lot of folks want to do home hardening for their existing homes. But in many jurisdictions, the permits are time-consuming and expensive. And what I'm wondering is, are you aware of either a state initiative or of any jurisdiction in California that has figured out a way to streamline the permit process? Where, for example, that checklist you had of the things to do, Class A roof, protect the eaves, et cetera, can be on a checklist, and folks can select what they want to do. And there's some kind of streamlined, a literal over-the-counter permit process, similar to how most jurisdictions do re-roofs. Re-roofs are generally over the counter, where a roofing contractor will call up, pay the fee, and they'll have the permit the same day and they can re-roof. Is there a way that, or a model that the state can help jurisdictions with so that they can streamline this ability to home harden existing homes? What I've referred to in my own mind as the Triple H initiative,
Mhm.
just because I know, like in Monterey County, the permit issue or the risk of getting red tag is a real obstacle for folks.
Mhm. Yeah, honestly, it is different from every jurisdiction, and I wish, yeah, there was a streamlined process, but currently there hasn't been any legislative push to have a streamlined process, just because it it's kind of hard to supersede when you have the California legislature, and then you decide to go county level, then city level, then it's much more difficult in that sense, and especially when you're dealing with like the Coastal Commission and CEQA and many other you know acronym agencies. It's kind of a harder push for that permitting process to go through, much easier. But when it is at the request of insurance companies, they should have that feasibility for you to do so. But it as I mentioned, is different from each municipality.
So if I could just say, some of us have been working with the County of Monterey to see if we can figure out a way to do this. And
Mhm.
if so, would your agency and perhaps others in Sacramento um, help this model to become something that can be freely distributed amongst all jurisdictions? And, hopefully with some blessing from the state saying,
Mhm.
yeah, under the police powers of health, safety, and welfare, the wildfire protection is of equal or greater concern than these other obstacles that are in place. And so we legitimately can streamline them because it's increasing health, safety, and welfare, not
Mhm.
decreasing it.
Yeah, and it can definitely go towards your assembly member. Is it? I know there's multiple in the area, but definitely talking to the assembly member's office can definitely assist with that. State senator's office as well. I do work with Senator Laird's office in regards to support. You can reach out to the Department of Insurance. We would provide a letter of support in regarding this, because home hardening is a key aspect of what we've been doing over the past few years, and it's an important integral part of our work. And I know Cal Fire, I can't speak on behalf of Cal Fire, but the home hardening aspect of it, I'm sure they're all for it too.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Thanks, Michael. I think Karen, you have your hand raised for the next question, or for your next question.
Thank you.
Mhm.
This really kind of tags on to Michael's issue, and that is in Monterey County, we have many municipalities who are so worried about saving our trees that they're not worried about saving our houses. And Pam, I know you've commented on this before as well. We really need help here in dealing with municipalities and their local rules in terms of permitting us to remove anything that's green within 5 feet isn't even questionable. It's, you need to plant in my town, you need to plant 2 trees if you want to remove 1 tree. So this is something that really has to come from the state, and it has to talk about the priorities of saving people as well as our beautiful environment.
Mhm. Yeah, it is definitely a challenge that a lot of folks deal with, especially when it comes to you know federal land, state lands. Because I do cover the whole Central Valley, and I'm near the Sierra National Forest. It is a hard process, trying to make sure, like, hey, can we actually get the state to come down and actually trim these trees, or actually down a couple trees. But yeah, it's a difficult thing. And even with all the mitigation strategies and efforts to push, just like the community of Thousand Oaks down south, it's hard to you can't even cut down a tree if you're building a road. You have to build the road around it. So it really makes things difficult. And, it is something throughout the state that folks have been, really, really trying to have a discussion with their, elected officials on to see if there is any way that, we can at least navigate around this. So it is a more of environmental thing, but that, of course, trickles down to each jurisdiction, because of their laws and guidelines, there has to be some type of wiggle room, but it's all up to the electeds to kind of decide and suspend certain processes if need be.
And I think with that, I think that might have been our last question. Also, again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And I think actually, Karen, you might have follow-up. Sorry if I might have cut that off too soon.
No, I had written in the chat
Oh,
my
farmers.
question about farmers.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. So farmers is currently in the process of submitting the rate filing to the department. So once they are coming back, we will have that announcement ready.
Does that mean that they are joining the team?
Yes, so
Because
they are going to be writing back in the state of California once again.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
I think now that's the final question. Thank you so much for joining. And with that, I will hand it over to Carmel River Watershed Conservancy. Their mission statement is to protect and improve the health of the Carmel River watershed for the benefit of its natural environment and the public. They're here to talk about their wildfire mitigation toolkit, kind of in line with what we were discussing about vegetation management. Because you're along the watershed, that has some really specifics. You want to protect the water quality of the watershed while also protecting yourself from wildfire. As well as their annual watershed health report card. And I could also link that. Really informative if you live in the watershed, and yeah, great tool. So I hand off to Erin, who's here to talk to us about that.
Thank you so much for that amazing introduction. Yes, let me just share my screen. And we will dive right in. All right, can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Amazing. So I want to introduce myself first. Hi, my name is Erin Lawrence. I am the lead project manager at the Carmel River Watershed Conservancy. I've been working with the organization for almost 2 years now, and I do mainly our educational events and outreach, such as things like this, Science Uncorked, California Wildlife Day, etc. So super happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me on. And Richie, thank you so much for an amazing presentation as well. I learned some things as well. So enough about me. I want to thank you so much for introducing our mission, but the Carmel River Watershed Conservancy started in the year 2000 after in 1999, the Carmel River was classified as one of the top 10 endangered rivers in the US. And so we've made it our mission to work to improve the Carmel River, not only for people, but also for the environment. And in case you didn't know this already, the Monterey Peninsula, we get over 40% of our drinking water from the Carmel River, with the other main source being the Seaside Groundwater Basin. So the Carmel River is not only important for the Carmel Valley and Carmel and all of the environment there, but also for the entire peninsula and the greater area. So since 1999, when the river was declared one of the top 10 endangered in the US, we have done a lot of work since we were founded, but we still have a lot to go. So we appreciate all of your attention here, and we hope that you learned something as well. So one of the main goals that we work to do is to reduce fire flood, and drought. So we work on river health, we work on climate resilience, and we do education. So to dive into the watershed stewardship toolkits that you were just talking about, we have 3 of them. They're on our website. The link is here, and then I'll have a QR code at the end of my presentation so you guys can download whatever ones you want. They talk about drought and flood management. So one of the main things that we deal with is drought in the summertime and heavy floods in the wintertime. And to be able to manage that effectively, we created this toolkit to help guide you in terms of what to plant, how to capture rainwater, sink it into our ground, and keep it in the system for longer, to slow water down during droughts and keep it in the watershed or slow it down for floods, keep it in the watershed for droughts. And then native vegetation, that toolkit talks about what vegetation grows best in our area, our region, our watershed. So if you are planting stuff at your house, it's going to be drought resilient, flood resistant, and also fire resilient as well. So it's less likely to catch on fire during our dry seasons because they're well adapted to our area. So they won't just dry up and die and create fuel. So lastly, the most important one that we're here to talk about today is our wildfire mitigation one. And I'm going to directly share that. And we'll just briefly go through it. Hang on, let me make this full screen. Okay. So this one is 17 pages long. It's not all encompassing, but we hope it gives you somewhere to start. And then it has links to a whole lot of other guides that help you. But we didn't want to make it too crazy so that it's actually digestible and you can read it without getting overwhelmed. So it talks a little bit about where the highest fire risk is in our watershed. So down at the bottom here, this is our headwaters. And then as it goes, it flows north towards the Carmel by the sea. It kind of shows you that the most frequent fires are occurring on our headwaters down here. And then it gets less and less so as you go north. And then this slide here shows you a little bit about the different regions. So headwaters, Salinas Mountains, the Santa Lucia Mountains, and the river mouth. And each area gets a drastically different amount of rainfall each year. So in the headwaters, we get 52 inches of rain, versus in the river mouth, there's only 18 inches of rain per year. And so that drastically affects what type of plants live there and the fire behavior as well. And then these are 6. We have 12 top fire safe practices to keep you and your home safe. So Richie talked a little bit about some of these, like creating defensible space, fire protection, home hardening. But these are all different things you can do for your home to help, prevent your house from catching on fire, but also to keep the community safe as a whole. If everyone were to implement practices like this, it would help not only you, but also your neighbors and your whole Firewise communities. So a few more, just high level, prescribed burning, how that works, fuel management, the type of landscaping that we can do, like our vegetation, and then communication. And we have a whole lot of resources for you, including Fire Safe Council from Monterey County, which you all are already familiar with. But we do a lot of great work with them, so we're grateful to be partnering. So living in the Carmel River watershed, you are living in a wildland urban interface. So this is where people are building and developing in active wildfire areas. So there is higher risk here. So this kind of gives you an idea of where these zones are, similar to the other maps, so that you can understand your risk and then plan accordingly to help prevent fires from impacting you and your home. And then I'm just going to really quickly go through these. You can look at these on your own time, but creating defensible space, what does that mean? Clearing far away from your home and not having anything like vegetation that can catch your home on fire immediately up against your home. This is additional defensible space creation and a little bit more like diagram sort of stuff. Home hardening, so this is vents, gutters, siding, roofs, and decks. And there are a whole lot of resources in our area through like CAL FIRE as well. So there's a lot of good things that you can do. Brush pile reduction, knowing how to do chipping as well as controlled burns and safe disposal methods so that we're not creating a whole lot of kindling and fire starting piles fuel. Prescribed burns. So during our Science Uncorked talk, which I'm going to show you guys a little flyer for towards the end of this, but on Thursday, like this coming Thursday, the 16th of July at 5:30, we're going to have a talk about wildfire mitigation risks. And so we have two speakers. One of our speakers, her name is Emily Aiken. She's from Santa Lucia Preserve, and she does prescribed burning and fuel management on the preserve. So she's going to give a really in-depth talk about how to do this sort of thing and who to call, when to call people, and all of that. So tune in. I'll give you more information later. This is a little bit more about prescribed burning. Best time to dual fuel management. As you can see here, there are other species that live in our watershed, like our California quail, which is our state bird. And there are a lot of considerations to do, such as like dry season versus wet season when you're doing fuel management, but also what species are doing in our watershed and when. So, for example, the California quail has its nesting season between February and August. And so we want to be really mindful of doing fuel management to help protect our biodiversity and support our ecosystem health as well. And then just getting into a little bit of fire-resistant landscaping. These are plants, like native plants that you do want to plant at your home. And so this is just a snapshot we have on our vegetation toolkit. We have a whole lot more, but this just gives you a little bit of an idea about how fast these plants, how fast water drains under them. So during a flood, if you have these planted, such as the monkey flower, that is going to soak water into the ground quickly and help prevent flood from happening on your land. Versus some of these other ones will be a slower intake of water. But these are all native plants. They're great. Talks a little bit about what type of sun they need, if they work with a gray water system, or if they are good for a rain garden, and pollinators. And on the flip side, these are plants that you want to avoid because they are highly flammable. So things like pampas grass, I'm sure you are all very familiar with. It's a highly invasive species that is very flammable. And I mean, it looks beautiful, but we do want to avoid this to keep our homes and our watershed safe from fire. So additionally, access to community collaboration. We are all in this together, and the work that we do not only impacts us, but it impacts our neighbors. So join the Firewise group if you haven't already. Thank you to the Fire Safe Council for setting these up. um, and a number of other things that you can do at your home to help educate your neighbors and work together. And then these are a whole lot of resources when you download the toolkit. These are all links. So things that you can do for local support and emergency information, as well as ways to plan and plant to prevent future wildfire risk. So enough of that. I'm going to switch back to the presentation, talk a little bit about our watershed health report card. So this is something that we have put out. Our last one was in 2023. We are currently working on putting out our next one. But this is basically to monitor our watershed, the water for a number of different indicators. So back in 1999, when our river was declared endangered, it was because of lack of water and also lack of health. So we grade all of the indicators that we are testing from A, healthy, to F, unhealthy, and this helps us guide what work we're doing and where within our watershed. And we're partnering with CSU Monterey Bay to help do this data monitoring, and then they share that with us so that we can share that with all of you. So this is we have a story map that kind of gives you a little bit of all the information. This was created in 2022, but it's still the same sort of data that we are using now. And I'm just going to go over it super briefly. I'll have this link again on our last slide as well. So if you don't get this right now, don't worry about it. All right. So I'm just going to give you a little example of the last report card, which was done in 2023. The total grade of the Carmel River watershed was 65. So out of a scale of 0 to 100, that's not great. Let's see, that is a C, fair. At least it's not a D, but this goes to show that we still have a lot of work to do in preserving the Carmel River and making sure that it's healthy for us and all of the animals that need to live there, such as the steelhead trout, which is a sensitive species that is local to just our area. And it relies on a healthy watershed for reproduction and growth before it can swim out into the ocean to get big and strong to come back to reproduce. So our watershed is very important for those species as well as many others. So I'll just show you guys a little bit about the types of things that we are monitoring. We're doing chemical and physical indicators, such as the species that live there, like macroinvertebrate communities, water chemistry, how many pesticides are ending up in our watershed, and then how is the stream flow during the dry season and wet season, and how does that compare? And then looking at steelhead populations is a huge thing and is a major indicator for the health of our watershed, as well as other aquatic invasive animals and bird species. Especially the Carmel River Lagoon, it's a very important habitat for birds who are migrating through the area. So we look at that to make sure that we have a healthy watershed. And then landscape, if there is a lot of erosion or if the floodplains are connected, things like that, natural land, and then natural disturbance like fire frequency is big. And on our next watershed report card that is coming out soon, we don't have it quite done yet. You know how things always take a little bit longer than you would like them to. We are adding in more indicators of water chemistry and also stream flow connectivity. And stream flow connectivity is very important for fire because it helps us to identify drought conditions and drying landscapes and where we need to put our attention there because those increase wildfire risk by reducing the amount of moisture that is in vegetation. So that includes like fire breaks. The Carmel River is a fire break because it is full of water. And where there's water, there's less likely to be fire. So those are some of the things that we are working on in terms of our monitoring and making sure that we are on top of fire risk and that moving forward in terms of drought and everything. So if you're interested in more about this, there is a whole lot of indicators that kind of walks you through all of this through the story map. So feel free to browse this as you please. And then lastly, we have a few educational programs. Our largest one is California Wildlife Day, which is every year in the spring. This coming year, it is on Sunday, April 4th, 2027. That is on our website, so you can go and check that out. But we have over 1,000 people come every year for exhibitors, presentations, nature walks, live animals, and so much more. It is super fun and a great day for the whole family to come out and learn about everything wildlife, everything Carmel Valley. It is at Paula Corona Regional Park in Carmel Valley. So go check that out on our website if you're interested. And then this is our other main educational program. It's called Science Uncorked. And the upcoming event that we have right now is this Thursday, July 16th. It is on wildfire resilience. So it talks about firescaping and fuel management. Our two speakers are Pam Bursler, who is the CEO of the Green Gardens Group. And so she's going to talk a little bit about home hardening and vegetation management at your home to manage wildfire risk. And then Emily Aiken is a fuels management specialist at the Santa Lucia Preserve. And so she's going to talk about prescribed burns and managing fuels to help keep our whole community safe. And so if you'd like to learn about any of those, or if you have questions, come out to Joyce Winery. It's in Carmel Valley Village. The talk is from 5:30 to 6:30. It's free, it's open to the public. If you feel like buying a glass of wine, you're welcome to. But otherwise, you can come and just learn and ask questions, and it's a great community event. This time, we are also going to be having a virtual option. So if you can't make it out, we will be hosting this on Zoom as well. That's going to be on our website on the QR code down here. Or if you just go to our website, go to events, it's right there. You can't miss it. And with that, does anyone have any questions for me? And then these are all the links to the toolkits, so you can download any of the toolkits here, the Watershed Health Report Card Story Map. You can find out more information on our website as well, and the Science Uncorked upcoming event. So yeah, thanks guys for listening, and I hope you learned something and ask me any questions.
Thank you, Erin. And I remember last year listening to, I think when the watershed report for last year was presented, and thank you so much for talking about that. The indicators and all the research that goes into it is really impressive, and as well as the toolkit. And yeah, they're great resources, especially if you're in the watershed and not sure what to do, because it can be kind of tricky. You don't want to clear cut all the vegetation there, but you also don't want to plant anything that's invasive. So great tools to refer to. In Science Uncorked, I've been to last year's that was on wildfire resiliency with forgetting her name. She did some of the mapping for the joint grant that we had, and I really enjoyed it. It was a new kind of or interesting format or interesting setting to have kind of a conversation about the watershed, resiliency, and all different projects.
Yeah. And we have all of our previous Science Uncorked talks on our website. So if you go to Science Uncorked, you can find our previous talks there. They're on our YouTube channel. So if you're interested in
Nice.
seeing last year's as well, you can do that.
Great. And yeah, we can open up for questions. And there's just some comments about having great tools and passing it along to some neighbors for Firewise meetups. I know they can print out to be really nice little booklets too, and they're nice to just have on hand. Okay, so we don't have any questions. We can go on to just general materials, but thank you so much, Erin, for taking time this evening to join us and talk about the watershed. I know it's been a long time coming for us to have kind of a or the watershed to talk about their tools. So thank you so much for the time and effort you put in to making these programs possible too. Thanks.
Of course, yeah. Thank you so much for having us.
So now I'll share my screen just for the last couple slides that I have. So I also wanted to announce Fire Safe Council has gotten another PG&E grant for this year, specifically to focus on Kashawa Fire and or Tassajara area. And this is kind of the flyer that we put out for the recent Kashawa Fair. And we're really focusing on access, emergency access, egress, alongside putting the green reflective signs. It's really important for communities to maintain the 10 feet by 10 feet or 15 feet by 15 feet area around.
There, she's back again. Good.
Okay.
Sorry, Jennifer.
Yeah, I don't know what that was about. Okay. All right, let me restart where I was at. That's the first time I'd had that happen. All right, here we go. Yeah, so from what I can remember when it cut out, we were focusing on the ingress and egress of Kashawa and Tassajara area. And we're working with Kashawa Fire. Pam has been working really diligently to have the information and the outreach for communities to be aware of the project going on. So PG&E, we got $50,000 to clear out the roads to make, so fire trucks, wildland type 3, all the really big ones can fit through communities and get to communities when there is a fire. And it's really important alongside getting those green reflective signs for firefighters to be able to see your home. A lot of times firefighters are contracted from other parts of the county, other parts of California to work with CAL FIRE or the fire protection district seasonally, and they might not know the area very well. So making it easier for them to access your home in case of emergency or access your community is really key to get their help and their assistance as quickly as possible to you. So we're focusing on improving emergency ingress and egress routes. It's grant funded, so it's no cost to property owners for the roadways. We've gotten the county permits to do this, the county encroachment permits to do this too, and using responsible vegetation management practices to clear out all the bush and woody vegetation, and it'll all be hauled away after that. Any low-hanging tree limbs, anything that could get caught on like the wires to prevent any electrical fires as well, or help reduce the risk of those. Also wanted to kind of highlight the new kind of format or the new portal that Firewise, the NFPA has for Firewise. So this is what it looks like now. And we can go here. Before it looked pretty different, and now I think they're having you submit through this portal too. You can still, search here to find your Firewise community. But here you can see any new ones. And yeah, all throughout, specifically along through the watershed, and a lot in Carmel, Pacific Grove. So yeah, this is for you to see. Also wanted to highlight our Prepared Not Scared, specifically for Monterey County. Santa Cruz County had published this, and it's kind of a take-home guide. You fill it out, put it on your fridge. Whenever there's any emergency, you can just pick it up and it's all kind of listed there. And take a look how this looks like. So here's just really a checklist. So what you can do today, such as signing up for Alert Monterey and checking your zone through Project Genesis as well. What you can do in terms of home hardening, defensible space, and also preparing like a go bag. And it's very detailed checklist, and these will be available wherever we kind of post for a tabling event, such as, Fiesta Carmel, or such as, the Kashawa Fair is also where we could hand these out, as well as Wildlife Day is somewhere where we would have these handouts. And they're really cool. You can cut this out, resident information, having any residents on the property, any pets, intended evacuation destination sometimes. And when you get that notice and you get that warning, it's kind of frantic moments, but this can really hone in where you need to go and make it easier for you to clear your mind and have a checklist of what to do. And also some resources mentioned. So Fair Plan, home hardening discounts. This is a great little one-pager summary of the compounding home hardening discounts that could be added to your insurance, one of them being Firewise. So get in touch with your local Firewise leader specifically to see how the landscaping work you've done, those hours that you've been putting in, can go towards a discount, potentially through your insurance with the Fair Plan specifically. Yeah.
Jennifer, it's Pam. I see that Janice has asked, how does she access the Prepared Not Scared pamphlets? I would be happy to get her some. We managed with one of our last grants to get a number of them printed, so I'm happy to hand them out. So Janice, I will be in touch with you and find out how I can get them to you.
As well, if your Firewise is hosting a community event and you'd like to have these on hand, please feel free to reach out to us, and we'll see how to get them into your PO box or get them in hand, local meetup spot to get you these materials that you need to present and to, get them out there. And as well, there's also one IBHS specific, also home hardening, but kind of, I think now with insurance, in that I think the standard has now become wildfire prepared homes, and it is kind of a long-term solution, but these are kind of things that you can consider when looking at your home hardening and defensible space work. Also, the safer from wildfires, and kind of standard what was discussed today. And upcoming events I'd like to highlight: Thursday, July 16th, Carmel River Watershed Science Uncorked on wildfire resiliency at Russell Joyce Winery in Carmel Valley, also on Zoom if you cannot attend, and two great speakers. I've heard Emily Aiken speak and seen her story map. They're all very detailed and goes into what the Santa Lucia Preserve does, and really fantastic presentation. And also next Monday will be Firewise 101 on home hardening. So some options for, we focused a lot on vegetation in the past, and now kind of seeing what can be done, some minor upgrades, major upgrades, where you can find that locally, and what can be done on that end. Also, July 28th, the United Policyholders, the specific to insurance, their wildfire risk reduction and asset protection working group meeting, and this was the Zoom link to join that. And you can also email United Policyholders to get a part of their working group. They always have great speakers locally. Last month was with Santa Clara County Fire Safe Council to discuss their programs that they have. And with that, I think we're all done. And yeah, thank you so much for spending this evening with us and listening about what you can do to prepare your home, yourself, and your community against wildfire. And again, all this will be posted, all the slides will be posted through email. If you register, then I'll make sure to get it to you, video as well, mostly on our YouTube channel at FFC for Monterey County. And you can find kind of an archive of all these meetings that we've had in the past.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer, very much. And if you could stay on for just a second after the meeting, so I can regroup with you.